Welcome to our KPC Daily Devotions. For the next, 7 weeks or so, we're going to be looking at C.S. Lewis's Screwtape Letters. We hope you enjoy it and get a lot out of it. It was 1941, and the bombs were dropping on London as the Battle of Britain roared and wailed overhead night after night. The populace did not know whether to be terrified or angry, so they were both at the same time. Some sought solace in the blacked-out pubs, others turned to the church, and some found their answers on the radio and in their newspaper, The Guardian, in a series of tongue-in-cheek articles by a brilliant but unquestionably stodgy Oxford professor. Clive Staples Lewis was born in Belfast, Ireland, in 1898. His mother died when he was 8, and he was sent away to school, Campbell College, Malvern College, and eventually Oxford. Inclined to skepticism, he declared himself an atheist at the age of 15, and his experiences on the front line in World War I, where he was himself injured in a friendly fire incident, well, it only reinforced this. He became a scholar of medieval English literature and taught at Oxford, where he developed deep friendships with Dorothy Sayers and J.R.R. Tolkien, fellow professors and writers whose strong Christian convictions were instrumental in bringing him back to the faith in Christ in 1932. Much of his writings for the next 20 years was apologetic, which means that he was trying to explain and defend the Christian gospel against other skeptics and cynics. He was especially suited to persuade the agnostic and the atheist because he himself had once had to work through the same questions. His great studies, like God in the Dock, The Abolition of Man, The Great Divorce, and Mere Christianity, all were composed during this time. The one notable exception to Lewis's sweeping apologetic vision was a series of radio addresses published in the Guardian newspaper entitled The Screwtape Letters. The Screwtape Letters comprises 31 brief chapters in the form of letters written by a mid-level devil in the bureaucracy of hell named Screwtape to his nephew Wormwood, a junior tempter in the field. In these letters, everything good is disdained as bad, everything righteous is, distasteful, and God is the enemy with a capital E. After all, this is the devil talking. Screwtape's job is to counsel a younger devil how to handle his patient, as he's called, a young Englishman who, at the beginning of the correspondence, is not yet a Christian. For the whole notion of the book is that each human is managed by his or her own individual tempter, a junior devil who is diligently trying to steer him or her away from faith and any awareness of God or spiritual truth until they arrive at last, ignorant and unredeemed, in hell, where they become outraged fodder for the devils. Very soon our young patient does indeed become a Christian, and the devils must connive how to render his newfound faith meaningless and ineffective. You see, C.S. Lewis would remind us that the devil's temptation is never as targeted and desperate as it is when directed at believers, and that very often we patients are blissfully unaware that we are being targeted at all. The devils strive to corrupt the will and twist everything right and true into a caricature of itself, until we, patients, do the wrong thing for all the so-called right reasons. In the process, Lewis could explore themes like fellowship, church life, prayer, humility, spiritual troughs, the moral importance of the present moment, and death. He exposes the insidiousness of the deadly sins and why they are so deadly, like gluttony and pride. And what is love? And why can the devil simply not understand it? Christians are rife with sins we do not even recognize. Only last week, I had to respond to a written complaint of an elder saint who was mortally offended by the casual dress in church, and opined how for years she could not find a church to attend because they so dishonored God by their clothes. And the poor thing was completely clueless that she had turned into the same kind of holier-than-thou, self-righteous Pharisee that Jesus had so roundly condemned. Ah, the impressive fruit of a lifetime of carefully managed temptation. The class struggle is nothing but the deadly sin of envy with a bold ideological veneer. In pitched battle against those who have but would rather not share, that is greed, and complain why those with less don't simply work harder and make more of themselves like we did, that's pride. Most social upheaval is simply one form of sin going head-to-head with some other form of sin. And it doesn't really matter which side wins because, well, ultimately the only one who wins is the devil. More unwitting fodder for his rapacious hunger. The righteousness, peace, kindness, and generosity of God looks very, very different. Lewis reminds us that as Christians, we are never above temptation of some kind, and the subtle ones are the most dangerous. Screwtape counsels Wormwood, it does not matter how small the sins are, provided that their cumulative effect is to edge the man away from the light and out into the nothing. Murder is no better than cards, if cards can do the trick. Indeed, the safest road to hell is the gradual one, the gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts. And I wish you a very good day ahead. Goodbye.